Hey everybody, Corey here, coming at you with another knife video. If I look and sound sick as a dog, it's because I am, but that's okay. The show must go on. But that's what this is all about right now. Anyhow, I wanted to put out a video related to this Viper Knives Katla that I had sent in to WayOfKnife for some custom work. So check out my previous video if you want to see what this knife looked like beforehand. But essentially, this was a plain titanium knife, and the only thing unique about it really was this, the milling. The milling actually came with the knife. Everything else you see right here is completely custom from WayOfKnife, and I really wanted to talk about my experiences, even though I'm not feeling well today, because I think the experiences were good enough to justify having this conversation ASAP. So, WayOfKnife. They're located in Traverse City, Michigan, and they do just about anything you could imagine wanting them to do to a knife. Look at that. There we go. That's the lighting I was looking for. Look at that paisley engraving, okay? So one of the things that I had them do was laser engrave this paisley pattern between the milled patterns that came with the knife. I think it looks absolutely amazing. The other thing I had them do was anodize the scales and then apply a finish that they refer to as an antique finish to it, which is why you can see, even though the scales are blue, you can see in the light, there's this kind of brass color that shines through in the blue when the light hits it the right way. And then I also had them anodize the hardware. Now, this is specific to my knife, but this was all previously silver except for the back spacer and the pivot collars. This knife had a crazy combination of titanium and stainless steel and phosphor bronze. The back spacer and the pivot collar were phosphor bronze. So basically what I told them was I want it to be blue and brass. They couldn't change the back spacer or the pivot collar, right? Because it's phosphor bronze. There's not anodization for that. So essentially what they did was they tried to match as well as they could the anodization on the rest of the hardware to the pivot collar and the back spacer, and honestly I think they did an absolutely amazing job. And then finally I had them put what they refer to as a working finish on the blade. It appears to, essentially just be like an acid wash, but overall, oh my god, they turned this around, like literally from me placing an order to sending it to them to then doing it and sending it back to me. They turned this around in less than a week. Now, of course, I can't guarantee that they're going to turn around your projects in less than a week, but what am I saying here? Their prices for their modifications are all very reasonable, especially for the work that they do. You can turn any knife into just the coolest custom piece that's totally unique to you for a very fair price. They were easy to talk to. They were easy to work with. The turnaround was fast. And I think my favorite thing about them is I got, quite a few things done. I got anodization. I got anodization of the hardware. There was some flame anodization. There was some titanium anodization. There was the laser engraving, just all this stuff, right? It's a completely new knife. They basically needed no clarification. They just sent me an email and they said, okay, great. We'll let you know when your knife is done. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. I'll make a separate video on this topic, but if you're familiar with the channel, you'd know I recently built a custom Olamic Wayfarer, and I gotta say, it's two different processes, right? But this was infinitely easier than coming up with a design and modifications for my custom Olamic Wayfarer. When I was dealing with Olamic, there was a lot of back and forth, and it was easy back and forth, but there was a lot of back and forth on, well, here's why that won't work, and here's why this won't work, and blah, blah, blah. These guys, they were just like, yep, send it in, sounds good, we'll do it. And they did. Then they did it really, really well. I have one thing that I can say that I think was a slight oversight. And I know that it was just a mistake because they did it half correct and half wrong. So when you acid wash a blade like this, you should protect the detent track and the pivot, essentially where the bearings run along. They did protect the detent track. They did protect one side of the bearings, and then the other side, it's very clear, it's acid washed where the bearings run. It's not the end of the world. It's not the biggest deal. I took the knife apart and I reassembled it. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but I noticed it was a little gritty because essentially the bearings were running along an acid wash surface. But that breaks in, you know, in a few flips, so it's really no big deal. That's the only thing, right? They resharpened the knife. It was razor sharp. It was shaving hair right off my arm. The engraving is good. The engraving has depth. It's just what I wanted. What am I trying to say? If you guys are looking for something custom, you want to do anything. You want them to dye your G10. You want them to just change the blade finish. You want them to sculpt the handle or sculpt the blade. They do anything. They do blade regrinds. Would you rather have a harpoon blade? Great, they'll regrind it to a harpoon. Like, it's amazing the stuff that they'll do. They were easy to work with. They were reasonably priced. They turned it around quickly. That's what I'm trying to say. This is the result again. Go look at my previous video if you want to see what this knife looked like beforehand. But oh my God, every time I see this in the light, I just lose it. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.